Hey witches, how you doing today? It's Taya. We're back with another video for, I'm doing a series, if you would, in November, Get to Know Me November, where I'm doing all sorts of different, question tags and questionnaires and all that. So this one is the Then versus Now Witchcraft Tag by Night Willow Crafts. So she didn't really give it a hashtag, but I'll just hashtag Then versus Now Witchcraft, and I'll link her channel. I'll put her channel in the description below if you want to go check out the original video. And basically it's a set of 9 questions comparing your witchcraft when you started to your witchcraft now. So I thought that would be kind of an interesting one to do. So let's see here. Just to give you a bit of a span, I've been practicing witchcraft sporadically since I was 19, which means I just about 27 years. And I started out, well, we'll get into that, but I've had sort of 3 phases. There was the very beginning phase, then there was this middle kind of amorphous phase, and then there's the later phase, which we'll kind of try to address as we go through these questions, all right? So, you ready? Question number 1. What title would you have called your path when you began? Wiccan, witch, pagan, versus now. So when I began, I suppose I would have identified as Wiccan. That was all I really knew. There wasn't much other information out there other than about Wicca being, witchcraft. So I probably would have been Wiccan. That didn't last long, maybe a year or so, when I was really this doesn't fit. And it was sort of at the beginning of the internet. So things were just starting to be publicly available on the internet, nowhere near like it is now. But I did sort of get introduced to this concept of eclectic witchcraft, or more almost an eclectic paganism. And I sat in that for many, many years until about late 2018, early 2019, when I discovered traditional witchcraft. And so, yeah, I've gone from Wiccan to eclectic seeker to traditional witch. Number 2, what was your divination tool of choice? So I suppose I wasn't big on divination. I suppose it would have been tarot. I had a lovely tarot deck that was gifted to me by my sister, and I did sort of play around with that a little bit. I was never very serious about it though, and I never learned to read the cards. I always used the book. And that kind of lasted throughout my eclectic phase. And then just over a year and a few months ago, for my schoolwork, I had to learn different forms of divination. And I thought, I really need to learn tarot. I need to learn to be able to read tarot. It doesn't have to be super in depth, but to at least get a feel on a reading without having to look it up in the books. So I bought a new tarot deck that really resonated, the Modern Witch Tarot, and learned to read with that. And so I have to say, I quite enjoy reading tarot now. Before it was kind of yeah, I guess. Now I love it because I can actually read it and get good intuitive readings off the cards. I also now use Oham. So they're little staves, and each one has one of the tree Ohams burnt onto it. And you can cast those lots, you can pull them, you can just pull 3 and read them. You can do past, present, future. You can do almost like a tarot card reading. There's lots of different ways to read them, and I quite enjoy playing with them. For the Oham though, I do need to use books and resources to sort of figure out what the interpretation is, because I just haven't been able to memorize all 20 staves, because there's no visual to go off of. It's just a little glyph that you have. So number 3, what was your view of deity? Good question. So I was all about the goddess. I was like a hippie loving goddess mama. Don't even know if I really believed in the God when I first got started. It was very much, like I've said in other videos, a reaction to my Catholic upbringing, and F the God. No, I'm not dealing with that. It's all about the goddess and the mother love. And yeah, I've come a long way since then. Now I work with, I was very much all about the goddess in the beginning, and then it just kind of petered off, and I was like, I don't really know where I stand on deity in my eclectic years, the lost years. But when I came to traditional witchcraft, they had I really enjoyed the way that it was sort of set out. So there's the witch mother and the witch father, who are two independent beings. They're not like the god and goddess of Wicca, where they're very intertwined and almost dependent upon one another, and it's a balance. And the witch father and the witch mother are both masculine and feminine in their own right. They are both creators and destroyers, and they act completely independently in our lives. And so the witch mother is a little bit more, I don't know, we're almost supposed to say esoteric, but it's like she's up in she's very celestial and removed, and she weaves the cords of our fate. Whereas the witch father is very present in the everyday, and he's the one who takes you by the hand and leads you along that woven fate, is sort of how I see it. So yeah, so I work very much with the witch father now. Not that I don't work with the witch mother, but the go-to active deity is more the witch father. Number 4, what did your altar space look like then versus now? I didn't have an altar then. I kind of sort of mocked one up when I was getting into Wicca, but I didn't have any tools or anything, so it was really more of just like a little pagan shrine. It didn't last long. I had a friend come over and she's like, oh my god, is that like a witch altar? And I was just like, what? No. And I like she's almost like making fun of me, and so I just like put it away and never really had an official altar space. I do now. I actually have 3. You can see one behind me. It is a hot mess, and it has been for way too long. But I do have this altar space. I have another working altar space out in like a common area in my like dining room. I have an ancestral altar. This altar, I don't really know what. It's kind of fallen out of use, so I have to like get back into it. I have to sort of figure out what its purpose is, because it used to be my working altar, but what I found was all of my like my herbs, all my dried plants and stuff are all out in the dining room in a cupboard, so I tended working out there all the time anyways. So my working altar sort of transition, so I don't really know what I'm using this one for so much anymore. All right. Number 5, have your ethics or morals changed? Like the law of 3 or harm none? No. The whole like Wiccan read, all that kind of stuff, it never really resonated with me. That was one of the reasons that I was like, I'm not really down with this whole Wicca thing. It was too structured for me. But I've definitely, and I also was interested in the concept of like hexing and cursing and stuff like that, even back in the day. But I won't say my morals have changed or my ethics have changed, but they've definitely clarified over the years to where like I actually have like a paper, an ethics paper that I wrote exactly outlining my ethical, I have like a whole process, a whole procedure to go through to decide if something is worth going to the level of hexing or cursing, right? So it's definitely clarified over the years. Number 6, who did you recommend or go to for your main source of information compared to now? So when I started, all there really was Wiccan books. Yeah, that's about it. There was like Wiccan books. And there was really no internet. And sort of as my witchcraft was developing, the internet was developing. And so I did sort of end up with like some MSN groups where I ended up meeting some people who were local, stuff like that. But there was not like information out there. In fact, there was a lot of us who would write blogs where really we just took information out of books and like repurposed it onto the internet to like share the information with other people. But there really wasn't internet like it is today. Now I'm still a books girl. I do love media. I love YouTube. But I'm really about books, but I find it tends to be books from like alternative publishing houses or that are self-published. Right? I don't get a lot out of Llewellyn. Every once in a while they might come out with a book, but for the most part, the books that I'm reading are from alternative publication houses, a lot of which tend to be out of like the UK. Number 7, how did you start celebrating the seasons and Sabbats compared to what you do now? So when I was first starting out, I liked the idea of the Wheel of the Year, and I tried to, my daughter was very young, and so we would do like family crafts and stuff sort of around the seasonal Wheel of the Year. But I never did anything like formal, like ritual type stuff. But now in my eclectic years, I kind of fell away from it because the Wheel of the Year felt very Wiccan. And I was like, I'm not Wiccan. To now in Tradcraft, I actually have a study group that I work with, and we do group rituals at all of the 8 major Sabbats. And it's really like been a huge eye-opener practicing like that with other people and celebrating the Sabbats in a mystery tradition. So yeah, I've come a whole full circle there. Number 8, has your celebrations or spell work regarding the moon changed? Yeah, I would definitely say so. At first I didn't really do much with the moons, and then in sort of when I got more eclectic, it was like I just tried to keep a track of the moon cycle and sort of how it affected me. And now I do something very pointedly for every full moon. I'd like to do something for the dark moon too. I actually feel more drawn to the dark moon than the full moon. But right now for my schoolwork in my tradition studies, I need to be doing something for every full moon is the direction. So that's what I'm working with. But I think if I wasn't directed that way to be working with the full moon, I would probably actually work more with the dark moon. That's definitely my jam. But I definitely do a lot more like actual workings and stuff with the moon phases now. And finally, number 9, has your use in tools changed since you began? Herbs, crystals, wand, pentacle, candles, so on. So, yeah, it has. In a kind of a different way, though. When I first started with Wicca, I was like 19. I got pregnant with my daughter at 21. And I was poor, like below poverty line poor. And so, I mean, I had some crystals and stuff, right? Because you can get a crystal for like 50 cents. A lot of sort of like new agey things like that you can tend to buy on the cheap. But I was so poor. So I did not have a lot of tools and stuff. I think I talked in another video about my little Starbucks. It's like a handleless mug that I bought, like a little almost like teacup but it doesn't have a handle on it. It was like fine porcelain from Starbucks, and it was just white china. It's beautiful, but it was on sale for like I think $1.99 or something, right? So that became like an altar tool for me. But I really didn't have much. Versus now, I am part of a like esoteric mystery tradition. It does have a lot of tools to it, and I can afford to buy tools. So I do. I also make a lot of my tools now. But yeah, I went from basically using almost no tools. I was very like new agey, a lot of like energy work type of stuff, to where now I do a lot more, it's a mystery tradition, but there's a lot of almost ceremonial components to it. So I do use a lot more tools now than I ever did before. So those are our 9 questions. Then versus now Witchcraft Tag, VR to Night Willow Crafts. I'll take her below in the description. Do you guys have any other tags? Anything else? I've got one more video to do for November, and I'm not sure what. I'll have to go search some more tags and see if there's anything else interesting. Anything you guys want to know? Leave it in the comments below. If you know of a good tag, drop it in the comments. I think I've done them all, but if we can find another one, I'd love to do one more before the month is out. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out. That's our video for today, and yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.